Welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, June 13th through Sunday, June 19th, 2022. This week we are moving forward, and I wrote down in my notes, we're moving forward, it's good times, and things are very steady. And I say that, and I'm sure there's someone out there going, what? These are super hard, challenging times. Everyone is different. We experience things at different times. We all know that. We have different birth charts that are all as unique as we are. So of course, depending on how these planets affect you, it may be a little bit different. But speaking more generally on a more universal scale, these are good times. The only way I could think that it might be challenging for you is if you're a person that is oriented toward constant change and challenges and struggles. Some people are kind of hooked on that and they thrive with that. If you're a person that is more kind of thinking outside the box, you're more kind of counterculture, you like it when things are a little bit edgy or mysterious or complex. That's the only way I could think that these times might be a little bit challenging for you, just because things are very straightforward right now. I mean, we live in a chaotic world. We live in a confusing world, of course, and that has not changed. But this is about as straightforward as it gets, I feel like, at least in these times since I've been an astrologer. And why do I say that? So I say that because Venus and Mars have been in domicile in Taurus and Aries, respectively. So when planets are in domicile, these are very easy, straightforward energies, okay? Not only that, but we also have Mercury entering Gemini this week. So we will have Mercury being in domicile as well. So that means Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all very strong in ways that are kind of obvious. They're acting very much their character when they're in those respective signs, if that makes sense. And this is very different from what we were experiencing for most of May. With the eclipses and the Mercury retrograde, I like comparing to astrology to weather, and doing so, I feel like May was this huge kind of storm that we were going through. And if May was this big storm, it's almost like the storm kind of broke, and then now we're just experiencing sunny days, sunny day after sunny day after sunny day, which I feel like most of us enjoy. But I don't know, there's people that like a good storm. They might want that kind of rain or grayness or something. You know what I mean? So it's not universal, but generally speaking, things are very linear now. Things are very straightforward. I did want to mention that even as Mercury has entered Gemini, for the first few degrees of Gemini, Mercury is still leaving its post shadow. So what that means is Mercury is still in the area that it previously just retrograded over. Okay? So what that means basically is, although Mercury turned direct kind of a while ago, back on June 3rd, we are still going through the same themes that we did during the Mercury retrograde. We're just doing so in a much linear way. So we're kind of wrapping it up. We gained a lot of insight through the, different or interesting, confusing experiences we had during Mercury retrograde. So now we are applying that insight to the same issues, moving forward, wrapping things up. So we're kind of experiencing the last bit of that this week. And going into next week, Mercury will already be out of that post shadow. So then you can, I don't want to say completely forget about it, but then you can move on in the sense that, things will be much more business as usual. We can proceed in our typical, linear A to B to C type of way that we like to do in this society. So the main things we've got going on this week, we've got Mercury entering Gemini, like I said, and that's big again because Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all in domicile. That's pretty rare. Good times, simple times. Other than that, we've got a full moon in Sagittarius this week, which to me, again, that's why I say it's good times. A full moon in Sagittarius, what better energy for a party, for good times. Sagittarius is such a jovial, happy sign. It's a party loving sign, party animal sign. And especially combining Sun and Gemini with Moon and Sagittarius, these are both really easygoing, light energies. They like to have a good time. They want to learn. There's an intellectual focus, but they want to learn in kind of a fun, experimental way. They want to adventure is a big theme that is shared by Gemini and Sagittarius. So these are fun energies. These are generally pretty easygoing, good time energies. This full moon is no exception, and I'll get more into that in just a moment. Those are the main events. We also have some smaller aspects that just seem a little bit intriguing to me, and I will tell you why when we get into the forecast. But we've got Mars crossing over Chiron at 15 degrees Aries, I believe. So that's just especially powerful because Mars is in domicile. Mars rules Aries, and then it's crossing over Chiron, which I've said, I've compared Chiron and Aries to kind of it's making us crying babies. So what happens when we bring Mars into that? That will be very interesting. We also have Venus crossing over the North Node this week. And so that will be interesting as well, kind of for the same reason as the previous aspect, because Venus is in domicile on Taurus as well. Venus is very strong there. And then crossing the North Node, which is kind of one of the most auspicious, easy points of the chart in terms of transits anyway. Bringing one of the easiest, most auspicious planets to one of the easiest, most auspicious points of the chart, especially when she's in domicile. Venus is very comfortable in Taurus. Venus is acting kind of how we expect Venus to act. So you're bringing us abundance with our kind of material things, material wealth, material pleasures. That looks like a really, really nice, harmonious aspect as well. So I'll talk more about that when that happens this week. But let's get into it here. And actually, before I get into the day by day, I did want to mention that I have created a website. I will link that in the description below. It's just manic.mercurian astrology.blogspot.com. So you can check that out, and basically there's information about the different readings I offer there. You can go to the tabs at the top, and I'm going to make a video. Actually, by the time you're seeing this, I will have already posted a video kind of just going through my website, giving you a tour, so you can check that out. I'll link that in the description as well. But basically, it just shows the different types of readings I offer, all the information that you could possibly kind of need or want about each type of reading. And then I'll also just post what's going on in the astrology. I think I might just type blurbs there. So I think most people would prefer this type of format with the just listing or maybe watching the forecast. But if you are a reader, you like reading articles, you can check that out. Or if you want a reading, definitely check that site out. You can get readings through there. But let's go to the daily astrology here. So we start out on Monday, June 13th, 2022, just before noon Eastern Standard Time. Always just adjust if you are, however many time zones away from Eastern Standard Time. But I like to use Eastern just because not only am I here, but a large part of my audience is on or around this time zone as well. But we start out Monday with Mercury entering Gemini. So you can see here by just before noon, Mercury is already at 0 degrees Gemini. Again, like I said in the intro, this is a big deal because this is one of the two signs that Mercury is the strongest in. I would argue Mercury is actually more strong and when we say strong, it's more like in the conventional sense of the word. Like the planet is acting very much like how we would expect it to. It's acting very characteristic of itself. I would argue that Mercury does so even more in Virgo, but it does in Gemini as well. Mercury's in domicile in Gemini. So what this means is Mercury having to do with our intellect, our communications, how we learn, how we adapt. It's also our daily habits, kind of the daily rhythm of our lives and the connections we make, not only with information, but also with people in our lives. Mercury having to do with all that is going to be very strong in Gemini. So Gemini being this kind of scattered intellectual sign, very curious, very talkative and chatty, this means that we may be more communicative, speaking more, conversating more, speaking about more maybe interesting or deeper subjects. But as I say, Mercury, Gemini in particular wants all the information. It doesn't care if it's the most highbrow, complex, philosophical, ideal, or if it's just some really shallow gossip or some kind of crude joke. Gemini doesn't care. It wants all the information. It's so curious. It doesn't really have a filter with what goes in or out sometimes. And so with Mercury and Gemini, we all experience that a little bit. We may be more curious, more intellectually active, more, just wanting ideas or information, wanting good conversation. We may be also more busy. There's a certain level of busyness with strong Mercury energy and Gemini energy as well. So, maybe more active, more short distance travel, more errands. that type of thing. More conversating with people that we see every day, so coworkers, neighbors, whatever it is for you. Just more kind of connections, more mental activity. So we can look forward to all of that for the next few weeks here. And the reason why I say this makes things easy is because this is what we expect of Mercury. We expect Mercury to make us kind of curious, intellectual. All these things are very, very much exactly what we typically expect from Mercury. That these are the traits that are characteristic of that planet. So that's why it just contributes to an environment that is straightforward. It's as you would expect it to be. Things are a little bit more simple. Yes, you may be more busy with errands or what have you, but it's not complex. It's not unexpected. It's something that feels generally natural to all of us. Again, there's always exceptions. If you maybe you just don't have any domicile energies in your chart, you have a lot of more challenging placements, you might not relate to this. But as for all of us in general, these are easy energies to understand. They're easy to experience, generally speaking. And then also I just wanted to mention, so as we start Monday, depending on where you are, Moon will enter Sagittarius either very late Sunday night or very early Monday morning, technically speaking. Eastern Standard Time, Moon is already in Sagittarius as we start the very early hours of the day. So that's that. I feel like that's nice as well. Moon is a little bit out of its element in Sagittarius because Moon typically represents the part of ourselves that is kind of private. It's more sensitive. It's the feminine part of the personality. It's our emotional core. And in Sagittarius, it's interesting because our comfort zone isn't our comfort zone. Our comfort zone is to be outside of our comfort zone. So it's a little bit of a contradiction. In Sagittarius, rather than, wanting to stay at home or keep to ourselves, we're a little bit more adventurous. We want to kind of explore. We want to try new things, try new foods, or, I don't know, speak with someone that might have a different opinion than ourselves or a different experience. Maybe, I don't know, experience different cultures, travel maybe a little bit farther, that type of thing. So for the next couple of days, we not only have increased short-term travel or short-distance travel with Mercury and Gemini, but we also have maybe increased long-distance travel as well with Moon and Sagittarius. And again, I just feel like this is really fun energy. Moon and Sagittarius were not so careful. So I guess on the downside, we could be a little bit reckless or impulsive with Moon and Sagittarius, especially since it's almost full. Even, if you look at the Moon at this point on Monday, it will appear pretty much full. They might just have a little dark side on the right, but it's basically full. So we're all feeling a little bit hyped up, a little bit energetic, and the Sun and Mercury and Gemini contribute to this as well. These are kind of high-spirited energies where you're feeling energetic, feeling a little wound up, wanting to get out. We're kind of restless at this point, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I don't know, just getting out and doing whatever you want will help this maybe. Having good times with friends, having adventures, that type of thing. Anything where you can kind of expand your mind, whether that be through learning about something or expanding your being through experiencing something new. That's what these energies are supporting, and this will only increase as we go throughout the day on Monday, and especially as we get to Tuesday once the Moon becomes full. Okay, let's go to Tuesday. So Tuesday, June 14th, we have the full moon in Sagittarius. It happens at 23 degrees. So it looks like kind of late morning Eastern Standard Time we have that exact full moon, but you'll definitely feel this all day here. And I do very much like this. It does make a T-square with Neptune, which is over here at 25 degrees Pisces. It's just off by 2 degrees, so pretty close to exact. Full moon also makes a sextile with Saturn, which is at 25 degrees Aquarius. And this is a pattern that you'll notice that with Neptune at 25 degrees Pisces and Saturn at 25 degrees Aquarius, anytime a planet, like an inner planet, reaches about 25 degrees of their sign, they will aspect both Neptune and Saturn lately. And they'll make a harsh aspect with one of those two and a I don't know, harmonious aspect with one of those two planets, Neptune or Saturn. So that's an interesting dynamic, and I did want to just address that real quick. So the way I kind of take this is Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Aquarius are representing two very different energies. Neptune is very much at home in Pisces, Saturn is very much at home in Aquarius, so these are very strong energies, but in very different ways. Neptune in Pisces, I think, represents this increasing need and desire of the greater population for spiritual awakening. I think we want room to breathe. We want less structure. We want room for spiritual awakening. We want more spiritual understanding. We want that room for us each to have our own spiritual experience, and all this I think is increasing, this kind of spiritual demand. However, Saturn in Aquarius is also showing that we want structure at the same time. So it's kind of these two conflicting desires or needs. Saturn in Aquarius is showing we want. It's almost like we want to be a part of a societal structure, like a tribe or a community, but we have different ideas of how that should look, and so it actually ends up not happening, at least for now. It's like we're beginning to want to unify, but at this stage we all have different ideas for how we would like to do that. What are we going to unify over? What will be our shared beliefs? We're not quite close to defining what the new paradigm will be for the age we're going to step into in a few years. But at this point, the desire to unify is beginning to increase, but right now it's being represented as two very different energies. In the next year or two, these energies will combine with Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, so eventually the structure of society will break down. But for right now, we still have these kind of heavy energies of Pluto in Capricorn and Saturn in Aquarius, where it's in domicile. So my point is, I trailed off a little bit there, but for right now, on this little more of a short-term experience that we're having in the moment here, in June of 2022, as the planets aspect both Saturn and Neptune, I think they're just highlighting these conflicting desires and conflicting needs, these conflicting trends in history that we're experiencing right now. We want structure, we want order, but we also want to rebel from the structure. We want freedom as well. Exactly how do we balance those? That's something that we won't reconcile till next year. But we're experiencing this conflict now as planets aspects, these two outer planets. And the outer planets, I always say, they more pertain to the globe or the long term. They're more things that we kind of feel in the background. Now, these kind of more background energies or background trends do tend to come up and become more noticeable when inner planets, since inner planets represent the individuality and the short-term moment. Those do make connections to these longer cycles, if that makes sense. So right now, maybe one of those times where we do pick up on these kind of larger, more abstract, more global, long-term themes, if that makes sense. So on a societal level, we want structure, we want order, but we also want to rebel from the structure. We know the structure doesn't work for us anymore. So this is something, let me just say it one different way. So this is something that has permeated into the background, but we will also kind of experience it maybe through a personal event around this time, if that makes sense. So it may come up for you. It may become a little bit more personal, a little bit more subjective for you. So all that was, I had to provide that context because it applies not only to the full moon, but it also applies to more aspects that we'll talk about later this week. As for the full moon, though, generally speaking, like I say, Sagittarius is a fun time. It's a time of celebration. A lot of holidays kind of fall with when the sun is in Sagittarius, for instance, like Thanksgiving and Christmas is just outside of it. So this is like a holiday, like a party type of vibe here. Sagittarius wants to have a good time, wants to adventure, so that's where the focus is. It does make that sextile to Saturn, so it's showing that we want to adventure, we want to have a good time, we want to experience, we want to go beyond our horizons and experience completely new things. But that doesn't mean we don't want some amount of structure as well. I think Saturn making this sextile is pretty nice. It shows that, it kind of just prevents us from getting too carried away. We don't want to completely just be belligerent or reckless. I think there's some kind of balance there that we are all maybe a little bit aware of with Saturn's kind of gentle but firm guiding energy through this aspect, if that makes sense. And then we also, maybe more importantly, have this square, this T square that the full moon is making with Neptune. Again, it's literally like a T intersection. So this gets a little bit more hectic just because we're combining not only two mutable signs but now three mutable signs. Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces are all mutable, which means that they correspond to the last stage of seasons, the part of the season where everything is changing. So all the mutable signs are based on change, adaptability, and learning, because they're learning to kind of adapt and embrace kind of new energies as they're beginning to trickle in, if that makes sense. So so Gemini's learning, Gemini Sun is learning through more the intellect, the rational mind, through communication. The Gemini Sun is opposing Sagittarius Moon, which is learning more through spirit, more through self-expression, similar to Gemini, but in a more physical way, I would say, wanting to have physical experiences, adventures. And Sagittarius is also more kind of larger scale than Gemini. Gemini is learning about these like little observations, little details. Sagittarius is more focused on the big picture, the more abstract, the more philosophical. How does this all fit in with the world and obscure stuff like that? Now we add Neptune and Pisces, which wants to dissolve everything. It doesn't want any structure at all. I don't know, it's almost like a hippie energy, I would say. It's wanting to just melt into everything. Like, it wants us all to just melt into each other. There's no identity, there's no separation. And I guess maybe on a theoretical level that sounds really great. We can all just be one and live as one, and we can all just be, one love. That sounds really cool. The problem is it's hard to function. We're just not really ready for that level of, I don't know, spiritual awakening quite yet, I don't think. So Neptune and Pisces, it also makes things confusing. It can be hard to distinguish things. It can be hard to think rationally. It can connect us to kind of the other side of things, to spirituality, to intuition. But the more it does so, the more difficult it is to distinguish. Am I just making this up? Is this my imagination? Or is what I'm experiencing really real? And ultimately, when you experience this kind of side of things, it's impossible to tell. So we're just adding this energy, and because all these mutable energies are very scattered, all mutable energies are very scattered. That's part of their adaptability. They're used to being different ways so that they can accommodate different circumstances. Like Gemini represents duality. It's literally like a Roman numeral 2. It is the twins, so it has that kind of duality. Sagittarius is one of the only signs that's it has duality because it's half human, half animal, so there's duality there. It's complex. Pisces is 2 fish. So not only are we combining 3 signs, but within each of those 3 signs, there's like multiple, many different things going on. So this T square to me seems like it could make you crazy because there's just so much going on. You can't really make sense of it. It's going to be very scattered, but if you can just go with the flow, that's something that all the mutable signs do. Gemini, Sagittarius, and especially Pisces are no exception at all. All these signs are adaptable. They go with the flow. They know that change is largely out of their control, and what is in their control is their adaptability, or their willingness to adapt, let's say. So that's the mentality I would approach. It's sort of like, when in Rome, act as the Romans do as the Romans do. When you're experiencing this like kind of, I don't want to say shitstorm because it still looks positive to me, but when you're experiencing this clashing of all these mutable energies, maybe act a little bit like a mutable sign. That may be harder for some of us than others, but if you can just go with the flow, maybe just step back and be a little bit, what's the word? I'm not saying to completely dissociate, but if you can just take everything with a grain of salt, maybe you'll learn something. All these mutable signs are about learning and soul growth through the change that they experience. So that's kind of the mentality I would have. Get out there, maybe learn something new, have some fun. Don't expect to know all the answers, though. Don't expect everything to make sense. Don't expect everything to be super smooth on Tuesday because, as we all know, with the full moon, things can be a little bit crazy. People can be riled up. And this is a fire full moon. Sagittarius can be a rowdy sign. So on the plus side, let's just break it down. Let's simplify it. On the plus side, this looks like a lot of fun to me, especially if you can have that easygoing, adaptable mentality. And it looks really great for learning. Fun and great for learning. Great for adventuring or having a party. On the downside, I think it could be overwhelming, very scattered, especially if you're someone with like a lot of fixed energy in your chart. If you want consistency, you want everything to be very straightforward and controlled. It's just not going to be like that. If you can step back and just allow things to be a little bit chaotic, it'll be a lot more fun for you, if that makes sense. Okay, and that's what I have for Tuesday. So Tuesday is a big day with that full moon. Fun, potentially chaotic, potentially rowdy. By late Tuesday, we already have the moon entering Capricorn. So that becomes a lot different. This is one of those full moons where the full moon happens, and then not long after the full moon, everything gets kind of shut down. I feel like the transition from Sagittarius to Capricorn is one of the most abrupt and one of the most maybe challenging, because this party energy of Sagittarius gets completely shut down when we enter Capricorn. I'm not dissing Capricorns at all. It's just that you are used to this kind of more strict, heavy energy. So this can be difficult, especially for some of us that aren't used to that energy. It can also be difficult because the moon is it's in detriment in Capricorn. So we may feel a little bit emotionally vulnerable or out of place a little bit. We still have a whole bunch of easy domicile planets that are making us feel ourselves and at home. But at least as far as the moon is concerned, once it does enter Capricorn, it's just a very different energy than Sagittarius. We're thinking more about putting our immediate desires and feelings on the back burner and focusing more on, what do I have to do for the long term? So it becomes a little bit more serious. We have to be more responsible, kind of step up to the plate, be more responsible, I guess. So it's just not as much of a fun energy. It may be very necessary for getting stuff done, especially if we do have obligations or commitments we need to make. But especially coming off of the Sagittarius full moon, I think this could be a shock Tuesday evening. Suddenly going from all fun, scattered, crazy to, we need to get serious, party time's over. We're just shutting down the party in kind of an abrupt way, I feel like. Let's go to Wednesday, June 15th. And you can see moon is going through Capricorn. It's definitely not the worst transit in the world. There's no real harsh aspects. Moon will square Mars and Chiron, though. So I take it back. Maybe there's one harsh aspect. And this is actually the main thing I wanted to talk about today, because you can see here, noon Eastern Standard Time, Mars is crossing over Chiron. Mars is conjunct Chiron at 15 degrees of Aries. And on top of that, we also have the moon, which looks like by late afternoon, moon will square the Mars-Chiron conjunction in Aries. So in short, all of this looks very volatile. So let's break it down. Mars is in domicile in Aries. It's very strong there. So with Mars in Aries, we may feel more confident, more assertive. That's really cool. We can get more stuff done. We can be very ambitious and goal-oriented and focus on our desires. But Mars being so strong, isn't all great. Mars is a malefic, so that means that the traditional astrologers basically said Mars is like an evil planet and it brings disaster. And that can be true because, although it can be good that it makes us more confident and assertive, for a lot of us, if we're already having a lot of that energy, Mars can be kind of an asshole energy. You know, it's good to have it strong in your chart, but not too strong. You know what I mean? Mars, especially the Greek mythological version of Mars, he was an asshole. He was always causing problems, reckless and violent and stuff. So with Mars and Aries, I'm not saying you're a terrible person if you're born with Mars and Aries. It just depends. It depends on exactly how strong it is in your chart. Too much of anything, too much of a good thing, may not always be good. So with Mars and Aries, there's that. That's kind of that energy. And as it crosses over Chiron in Aries is more about projecting, about asserting ourselves in regard to our personal wounds and trauma. And I always say the same thing. I always say, I'm approaching this very hesitantly because with Chiron and Aries, people are a little bit more sensitive. They're protesting a lot since Chiron entered Aries in 2018, for instance. I feel like this is a pretty direct connection there. And I'm not making fun of it. I think it's necessary on a lot of levels to be transparent and say, hey, this is where I come from. I'm not going to be shy about it. I'm not going to, hide it. This is my history, this is my past, and I'm not ashamed of it, and I demand you understand it on some level. I feel like as long as there's a level of respect there, and I don't know, as long as it comes with a constructive intention, maybe, I feel like it can be good, but I think the intention can be lost, and if people are focusing too much on their own pain, it can quickly become very destructive and can lose its purpose. That's why I approach it with a little bit of trepidation. But especially when we throw Mars in there, Mars can bring violent accidents and mishaps because it makes people impulsive. Especially, this is all happening in Aries, which is like Mars's house, if you will. This is Mars's turf. So people may be very quick to speak their minds, maybe in a very blunt or, in a way that's not very tactful, in a way that is not sympathetic, that, people may just say, this is where I come from. I don't care about you. I don't want to listen to you. It's me talking. Shut up. And there may be a time and place for that, but that's where I feel like it can quickly become destructive. You may be so full of pain, so reckless, that we're not listening to each other. It's, Chiron wants to build empathy and build connection. It wants to heal things, but depending on what we do with this energy, especially with this huge Martian kind of warlike influence, I'm not so sure that would be the outcome. And especially when we have Moon and Capricorn making this square, combining Capricorn with Aries is, I think, one of the most kind of stressful or like Capricorn and Aries actually both have a lot in common. They're both very individualistic. They're both great, leadership signs. They both propel us to be very individualistic, to say, this is what I want, this is what I know I'm right, I'm going to do what's right for me. So they both have that in common, but combining those doesn't really work, because the only thing they have in common is that they are independent. So they're both, they're also both signs that are associated with Mars. Mars is in domicile in Aries and exalted in Capricorn. So I think I'm getting this from somebody else, but he was comparing Aries to like a soldier and then Capricorn to an old military general. I feel like that's an excellent analogy here. They're both oriented toward war. It's just that one is more strategic and one is more impulsive. And these Aries energies are more impulsive. Moon and Capricorn wants to be more strategic. They're clashing together, and it's very difficult, I think, to reconcile this particular square with the signs that they're happening in. So this would make us feel very angsty, maybe irritable, frustrated. Where we are emotionally was already a little bit sensitive. Like I said, we already didn't feel super comfortable emotionally. And then now you add in all this Aries, fire, emotional, past trauma type of energy, bringing all that up to the surface. Um, I would just say, you know, again, take it with a grain of salt. People may say things they don't mean. Well, they may say things that have truth in them and that they mean on some level, but they're doing so in a very brash way that may be destructive. So it's not that there isn't truth in it, I think. It's just that I'm saying take it with a grain of salt because the delivery may not be there. The delivery may be a little bit overkill, I would say. So to be honest, I'm always honest with you. This looks more hard. There's always a plus and a minus side to everything, but with this in particular, it looks challenging. I feel like I could see tempers flying, people getting mad for no apparent reason, road rage or protests happening. And it gets confusing because there may be trauma coming up to the surface, but not everyone is ready to see it for what it is. If you're listening to this, you're probably ahead of the curve because you have taken an interest in astrology. A lot of you want to dig up your own stuff and deal with it and embrace higher consciousness. Not everyone is on the same page you are. Not everyone wants higher consciousness because with that comes a lot of responsibility, a lot of self-awareness. All of this can be scary for people. So my point is there may be stuff coming up to the surface, but people may not know that. They may just fly off the handle for some little thing when really they're not mad about that little thing. They're mad because they're realizing their marriage is a lie, or I don't know, or they are working a job they hate. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it could be anything. So I'd be a little bit cautious, and especially be cautious because Mars can bring about violent accidents like random car crashes or whatever it is. You might just like randomly cut yourself with while you're cooking or something, with Mars being so strong. So I would say just maybe be a little bit cautious. If you're feeling an intense way, that's okay. I'm not saying to run away from it, but maybe just breathe a little bit. Just give yourself a little bit of time because we may want to act right away. We may feel like it's so right, like we feel so full of emotion and it's just telling us to act in a certain way. But I just say just give it just a little bit of time. Just take a couple breaths. Just sit with it a little bit, and if you still feel the same way, okay, fine, go for it. but just sit with it and see if you feel the same way once you allow yourself to calm down maybe a little bit. Okay, and for some of us, again, just like anything, this may be stronger than for others. It just depends on how this falls in our chart. If you have any strong placements around 15 degrees of the cardinal signs, especially Aries and Capricorn, but also Libra or Cancer, you may feel this especially. So you may feel this kind of like crisis or action-oriented energy. You may have to change something in your life. I would say to maybe take action or make change, but again, don't do it in a rushed way. Give yourself some time to make sure it's what you truly want. Okay, that was kind of heavy. I guess I have to look for the plus side and things. The plus side of that is it can be a catharsis. This may be very disruptive and destructive, but it may, in the long run, still be good to get this kind of pent-up energy out there, if that makes sense. So we might have to clean up a mess, maybe. But the whole experience at least has a purpose because we got that energy out there. And once we've cleaned up the mess, we can move on, maybe in a more stable and what's the word I'm looking for? Like we feel good more deep down because we've released that kind of energy. That's the only kind of plus side I could see to that for sure. And I do think that's a strong probability for Wednesday. Okay, let's go forward to Thursday, June 16th. We do have Moon is still in Capricorn all day, and we've got three aspects. So the Sun has approached that kind of magical degree I was talking about, 25 degrees Gemini. So it will make an aspect not only to Neptune, but also to Saturn. Sun will square Neptune and trine Saturn. So that's what I was talking about. Sun is making a harmonious aspect with Saturn, but making this kind of more contentious aspect with Neptune. We also have Venus crossing over the North Node today. And I will get into that in just a moment. But with Sun, okay. Again, with Sun is simultaneously aspecting Neptune and Saturn. So it's highlighting our conflicting need for basically for structure and for freedom. Freedom's not exactly the word I'm looking for, but structure and the breakdown of the structure. We want structure, we want order, but we also want the breakdown of the structure. We want room to kind of breathe and evolve. I don't know what kind of word I'm looking for there, but we have these two conflicting needs and desires. And so the sun transiting here is highlighting both of these. The sun, in this case, is making a more harmonious aspect with Saturn. So although it's in Gemini, which is this kind of scattered, childlike energy, this is a harmonious energy with Saturn and Aquarius, which is the part of us that wants structure, especially social structure. We feel kind of out of control with our community, with our world socially. We don't know how this works. We want some kind of order there. Sun is also squaring Neptune, so that's showing this complete lack of structure. When we combine Gemini and Pisces, these are the two least structured signs, I would say. And Sun in Gemini is scattered, it's imaginative, but in a more logical or rational way, analytical way. But it does have this very vivid kind of mind, vivid imagination. And then we're combining that with Neptune and Pisces, which is more very imaginative, but in a more kind of emotional, sensitive, intuitive type of way. So combining both of these, I think, can be very chaotic. We can feel totally unstructured, maybe a little bit crazy, but it can also be very powerful when it comes to creativity, especially for like creative writing or maybe something artistic, something where you're doing something with your hands, like writing, drawing, creating an art piece, because we're channeling this kind of crazy intuition or dream or imagination, or channeling that into our more conscious cerebral mind, combining both. And that's exactly what can make you crazy, because you're having all these totally different thoughts and emotions and intuitions. You don't even know what of it is based on, reality, or how much of it is just in your head. That can make you crazy, but that can also be extremely valuable for artistic expression and creativity. Combining, the imagination, the intuition with the thoughts and the mind. So I think especially for engaging in some kind of fantasy, like a really good, complex movie or book, or again, some kind of artistic expression, writing, anything like that would be really great with Sun squaring Neptune. I could also say to go in the other direction and maybe do something physical. That's why kind of these doing something with your hands could be good artistically, because if like, yes, you can engage with this, being in your mind and being lost in thoughts and fantasy. But everything in moderation, maybe take a walk to, cook something, or something where you can even combine both, be in your head but also in your body at the same time. That would be good for not getting totally carried away with these imaginations and thoughts and feelings. And again, just touching one last time on Saturn, on Sun trining Saturn. I feel like we do feel structured. Sun and Gemini representing how we feel on a day-to-day level. We are, still very curious and sociable, but we're feeling supported by our environment. We're feeling supported especially by our social environment. There's some kind of social cohesion. Of course, this will be different for everyone, but I think on a general level, we do feel some kind of connection to community. We feel some kind of structure, some kind of structure there that is almost nurturing, or it makes us feel supported. It makes us feel strong, if that makes sense. Okay, and then we also have Venus crossing over the North Node just as of late. it looks like there's different versions of the North Node. So this shows North Node at 20 degrees. North Node could also be 22 degrees depending on how you calculate it. Either way, we have Venus that has just recently crossed over the North Node this week. And this looks very auspicious. This looks really great, especially financially. Venus is... There's different planets that kind of control money and abundance, but Venus is definitely one of them. Venus is kind of the pleasure of our world, of our lives. So it's a lot of it does have to do with pleasure, desire, attraction, and a lot of that desire and attraction for us, for humans in our society, kind of boils down to love in our relationships and our money, resources, finances. And especially in Taurus, Taurus more explores the physical side to all that. So it's our physical resources. And so with Venus and Taurus, it's kind of blessing us. It's allowing our physical resources to come easily, to be naturally strong. We are just naturally attracting to ourselves what we need. And with Venus crossing over the North Node is kind of this, at least this is how I read it with transits. I read it differently in natal charts, but in transits, this is a very easy, very pleasant, auspicious, positive part of the chart. So this looks really beautiful, having a benefic in domicile conjunct the North Node. Really, really beautiful. Things could be a little bit unexpected because Uranus is very close by at 17 degrees Taurus. This is all happening kind of at the top of the chart up here. So this, to me, I would think that the most likely manifestation of this for us would be, I don't want to get my hopes up or anything, but to me, I would see some kind of unexpected but very positive twist with our money and our resources. So things could be maybe a little bit easier than we realized, and this could come to us as some kind of awakening or shift in perspective. So we might realize, oh, I have more money than I thought I did, or I can use it more resourcefully than I previously realized. Something along those lines. And as above, so below. This applies on the individual level. This also applies to us on a global, societal level. I know we've been experiencing some economic nonsense, I guess you could say. So maybe there's some kind of relief there. Maybe it just has to do with us adapting to it. Maybe there's some kind of silver lining where we're becoming more resourceful, more wise. Or again, maybe it's some kind of relief there. I'm not sure. But it looks, if you really want to boil it down, looks like something positive with our finances. Some of it will pertain to our relationships as well. But to me, it looks mostly money related, resource related. Okay, let's go forward. This forecast is already so long. Let's go forward to Friday, June 17th. And we have the moon going through Aquarius all day. So the moon enters Aquarius right around midnight, going from midnight the night of Thursday, June 16th, going into Friday. Moon enters Aquarius right around midnight Eastern Standard Time. So again, you can just kind of give or take depending on how far away you are from this time zone. But for most of us here around this region of the world, we have Moon in Aquarius all day June 17th pretty much. So this is nice. Moon is trining the Sun. No, it's not even close by degree or by aspect, but at least they're in signs that trine one another. Sun in Gemini, Moon in Aquarius. These are both air signs. They have a lot in common. They're both supporting us in being very inquisitive, curious, intellectual, especially socially. We want to kind of like people watch or figure other people out. People may gossip more. But it's not just gossip. Again, it's complex ideas as well. So we're not only interested in people in the sense of like gossiping, but we're also interested in people in the sense of maybe we're more open to like I don't know, like politics or society, seeing how society should be, things like that. Aquarius gets really kind of experimental and philosophical. We're more wanting to improve things, improve how we are socially. And that gets kind of dangerous. There's a certain amount of recklessness that comes with the experimental side of Aquarius, I would say, but the intention is to improve things socially. So all this makes us a little bit more To be honest, Gemini and Aquarius are kind of freaky energies. We're more experimental. We're more willing to try new things or kind of think outside the box. We're maybe a little bit more open to strange behaviors or ideas. It's because Gemini and Aquarius get bored easily. They want some kind of interesting thing to happen. They want to just do something just to see what will happen. Very experimental, very socially intelligent, socially curious, that type of thing. So that's kind of where the general focus is on Friday here. Other than that, we still have Mercury, Venus, Mars all in domicile. Jupiter in Aries, where I feel like it's pretty strong. Neptune's sort of in domicile if you're a modern astrologer. Saturn's in domicile. Moon is in a little bit of a weird place since Moon is typically the emotional part of ourselves, and Aquarius is a little bit emotionless. So we may be a little bit detached today, which could be weird for some of us. But as a whole, again, things are very stable on Friday. I know we had a little bit of some turbulence earlier in the week, but Friday looks very stable. We can return to enjoying these very simple and straightforward energies again. Let's go forward to Saturday, June 18th. Moon enters Pisces today. Looks like early afternoon Eastern Standard Time. So that's a big shift, right? And we have that exact trine happening today as well. So Saturday looks really beautiful. I would say it's my probably most favorite day so far in terms of things being easy and pleasant. That's what we all want, right? At least on the surface level. We want, can't I just have an easy day? Can't things just be fun? And if that's your focus, which I think for most of us it is, that's most likely to happen on Saturday. Moon is trining the sun. Generally, everyone is, in a pretty upbeat mood, pretty stable, good mood with the moon trining the sun. It pretty much doesn't matter what signs they're happening in. In this case, again, these are in air signs, so we are intellectual. We're experiencing a lot of, mental energy, maybe talking a lot more. But it's a stable, good mood. We're, I don't know, especially socially, everyone maybe talking a lot, having a good time in that area on Saturday. And going into the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, Moon does enter Pisces, so that is a big shift. Pisces compared to Aquarius, they're both compassionate, humanitarian. They're both abstract energies, but they're both all of those things in very different ways. Aquarius is, I think the most notable difference is Aquarius is very kind of emotionless. It's a little bit stoic at times. It can feel deep emotion, but it doesn't know how to express it or what to do with it. So that's kind of what we experience with the moon in Aquarius more so. And this will be minimized by that harmonious aspect I talked about with the sun. We'll be feeling pretty good, generally speaking. But when moon enters Pisces, we become a lot more sensitive. We become a lot more subjective, emotional, but also intuitive. With that heightened emotion comes that intuition as well. So that's something powerful about moon in Pisces. The sun is also a lot more fitting, I would say, for the moon. Moon representing this intuitive, emotional side of ourselves. Pisces is a very intuitive and emotional sign, so this works pretty well. Things are kind of as we would expect them to be. The only kind of difficulty is that on especially late Saturday, Moon, it's not close to the exact aspect, but it's in a sign that now squares the sun sign. Pisces squares Gemini. It's a harsh aspect, so they clash. We talked about this earlier in the week where it's a very scattered energy. It's not structured. It can make us feel a little bit crazy because we're experiencing this kind of overdose of mental energy with the sun in Gemini, and then now also this overdose of emotional, intuitive, dreamy energy with Moon and Pisces. So how do you combine both of those? We can be very much in our heads, lost in our own thoughts and fantasies, lost in our own projections. It can be hard to quantify things or tell what is true. But again, that's where you get this boost of creativity as well. It's not always a bad thing to be totally lost in your own mind, especially if you balance it with physical activities, I would say. And this will lead to something interesting that I'll talk about more later, which is So as the moon enters Pisces, we're beginning to gear up gradually for the third quarter moon, which is always more action-oriented, more restless. And we actually won't get that until the sun is at the last degree of Gemini. So that's in a little bit. I'll talk about that more in a second. But it's we're gearing up toward this very interesting dynamic. And we're already beginning to feel the slight murmurings of it on Saturday. It's like we're going from this really good, stable mood to, I don't know, it may almost feel kind of ominous, especially going into Saturday night. Like there's something kind of weird coming, and I'll explain more about that in just a moment. Saturday we do have Venus, which has arrived at 25 degrees Taurus by the end of the day. And that's where, again, that's that magical degree where it will trine Saturn it will square Saturn and sextile Neptune. And this is interesting too because you can see here the moon is crossing over Saturn right about the time that the Venus is stepping into this square with, not only Saturn but also the moon. So that just pronounces it even more so. It brings our focus there even more so. Okay, so, and this is interesting because so many of these planets are in domicile. They're very strong, so they're clashing sometimes, and with both of them being so strong, it almost makes it more intense, kind of. So with Venus and Taurus, it's showing we're focusing on supporting ourselves. We're focusing on material pleasures, focusing on kind of abundance with our resources, maybe, or finding that abundance, and then bringing this. Well, let's talk about the sextile with Neptune first. That's a kind of more straightforward one, actually. This is actually pretty beautiful because we're combining two opposing yet complementary themes. They're both energies that are very strong, like I said. Neptune in Pisces is, again, exploring this more intuitive, dreamy, fantastical side of reality. The Venus in Taurus is more experiencing pleasure through the material world. So now, combining these two energies through the sextile, there is this combination of, yes, we're focusing on material pleasures, but we are also bringing in this kind of spiritual or intuitive, fantastical focus at the same time. So I think this would almost expand your pleasure even more so, because now it's not just physical, it's also you're connecting with it on a soul level. Maybe it's like helping you to unlock something. Sometimes pleasure can be crucial for learning, for unlocking truths, maybe, seeing a different side of things. And so there's that aspect. That looks really beautiful. Sextiles are pretty harmonious. We also have, again, Moon and Saturn. Well, technically Venus squaring Saturn, and technically the Moon squaring Venus. That's kind of confusing. But this is a little bit different. So these energies clash. Maybe it's just that Venus and Taurus is showing we're wanting to focus on our own personal resources and pleasures. But Saturn and Aquarius is saying, no, you can't always just do that. You have to focus on your commitment to help society, or to be a good member of society, to be a member of democracy if you live in a republic or democratic country, whatever it is. You feel like you have like this duty, like you have to be a part of the greater structure of things. You have to, I don't know what it is, work more hours, volunteer. You have to, I don't know, be a part of this structure. You have to uphold, the correct beliefs and be a very dignified person in this world. So those could be a little bit clashing. Let's see, there could also be some kind of restriction placed on your, excuse me, I'm sorry, my cat decided it's a really good place to hang out right behind the camera. I'm experimenting, I'm seeing if I want to be on camera for these, because there could be issues like this, but with, okay, so Saturn and Aquarius, yeah, Saturn, especially in Aquarius, confines things, it limits things. So in Aquarius, it's these social and or technological limitations. So we may want to experience pleasure or abundance with our finances and with material things, but those pleasures and that abundance may be limited by social expectations, by technology in some way, and I don't know exactly what that looks like for you. That could be different for different people. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we're being kind of controlled or corralled. You have to do something different with your resources. I don't. Another interpretation is like Venus and Taurus. We just had this big growth with our finances, with our resources. Um, this shift in perspective that was really refreshing. Maybe freeing up some money or using it more wisely. But then now Saturn and Aquarius could be the government or some kind of other authority figure in our lives, um, putting a damper on that, saying like, yes, you do have that abundance, but you're limited with what you can do with it, or you're obligated in some way to do something of that nature. So there is a balance with this, of course. Saturn typically it's just asking us to be more mature, more wise, to take responsibility. As long as we do those things, these Saturn energies don't have to be bad. A lot of people vilify Saturn's energy because it could be a damper on things. It's not fun. But again, it's just asking us to be mature, to be respectful, to be wiser. And so as long as we're doing those things, as long as we're handling our resources in a mature and responsible way, I wouldn't expect any kind of blowback or negativity. This, if anything, this could actually strengthen things for you. But on the flip side, if you're not taking ownership of your own stuff, emotionally, financially, whatever it is, that will go badly on Saturday. That you'll experience some maybe pretty strong consequences for not being responsible, especially financially. Okay, last day. Let's go to Sunday, June 19th. Moon is in Pisces all day. And increasingly on Sunday, I think we could be a little bit restless or agitated. And increasingly, it's interesting because we're all in our own world more so on Sunday. So that could lead to a lot of miscommunications. At least we have Mercury direct and in domicile, and by this time it's out of the post shadow. So that's showing we are communicating in a very effective way. So maybe that will remedy a lot of this. But with Sun in Gemini and Moon in Pisces beginning to get a little bit closer to that square aspect, we're all a little bit in our own heads, and that could be very strange. It's almost like I want to say a little bit crazy, and that's kind of almost like a scapegoat. It's just it's a shorthand word, I guess, because we're not really crazy. It's just that we're experiencing reality in a different way than other people on Sunday. We're all kind of projecting maybe a little bit. I don't know, this could go either way. We could see things as better than they actually are, or we could be paranoid more so. We're kind of all over the board. And this will be in next week's forecast, but what's really interesting is that once this third quarter moon actually happens, it will be at the very last degree of the entire cycle. It will be at 29 degrees Pisces. So that's why I say this does pertain to Sunday as well, because we're feeling it hasn't happened yet, but we're feeling the murmurings of it. We're feeling this energy start to creep in a little bit. And it's so strange, not only because of Sun and Gemini mixing with Moon and Pisces, that's strange on its own. That would make us very much in our heads. But also because this third quarter Moon aspect that we are approaching has to do with some kind of very large end to things. So we're approaching some kind of death or change, some kind of ending, some kind of clearing out something to make way for something new. So what exactly is that? I think it's very subjective. And by that I just mean that I think it's something very different for everyone. Or even if it's the same for everyone, we'll experience it in very different ways, so it's still different for everyone, if that makes sense. And if this sounds abstract and hard to follow, that's because this energy itself is that way. I don't know, it's like depending on your beliefs and your attitude, you may experience the same thing in a completely different way on Sunday, especially going into Monday. But that I will save for the next forecast. Okay, that's what I have for this week. I know there were some super weird energies in there and some kind of crazy aspects, but still, the baseline, what's going on kind of behind that, the common thread that links this whole week together is that stability. Things are going easy. So yes, there may be some upticks and some kind of other kind of craziness, but I just want to stress that underneath that, our baseline right now is very steady, very stable, very harmonious. Next week we do have some stuff that is changing. There's always change before like by the time you get used to one energy or one phase, it just completely changes, I feel like. But next week we have a third quarter moon in Pisces that I talked about that will be really wild because it's at the very last degree of the whole zodiac. So that'll be really crazy. There's a lot to unpack there. We also have Sun entering Cancer immediately after that. So that's starting summer. It's the summer solstice. Happy summer solstice and happy birthday, Cancers coming up. And then we also have Venus entering Gemini. So that will be especially cool. If you have any strong Gemini placements, you will embody the traits of Venus. You'll be more attractive and people will laugh at your jokes more. I don't know. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that. And again, I'll link my website down below if you're interested in checking that out. And check out the video I posted on that. I'll link that in the description below as well. But thank you for watching this. I just hope it helps you in some way. I hope it helps you navigate this craziness. But thanks for listening, and I will talk to you later.